Welcome to Whisper Secrets, where the most intimate mysteries come to life. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the bell so you never miss a secret. Now, let's pull back the veil. It's funny how life has a way of showing you who you really are when you least expect it. My name is Jack. I used to believe in love, in loyalty, and in marriage. I was married to Emily for 7 years. We were a perfect couple, or at least, that's what I thought. I had always trusted her, never questioning her faithfulness, believing in the vows we took. But that was before everything came crashing down. It started slowly. At first, it was the late nights. Emily would say she was out with friends, attending work events, or meeting colleagues for dinner. And I believed her. But then came the texts, late-night messages with names I didn't recognize. And one day, I found something I shouldn't have. An old receipt for a hotel room. The dates matched up with the nights she had worked late, or had business meetings. I confronted her, and she denied everything, of course. She said I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. But deep down, I knew the truth. The cracks in our marriage were too big to ignore anymore. She had been having an affair. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to face the fact that the woman I had built my life with had been lying to me. But the truth doesn't wait for you to be ready. It crashes into your life, knocking you down whether you're prepared or not. Then, one day, she came home, her eyes red, her face blotchy from crying. She wasn't alone. She was carrying a baby. I stared at her, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Was I dreaming? Was this some sick joke? Jack, She stopped when she saw my face, saw the confusion and the anger. I know this is unexpected, but please let me explain. You're pregnant, with his child? I whispered, the words tasting like venom. My world tilted on its axis. Emily nodded, tears streaming down her face. Yes. It's his. Who? I asked, feeling the rage surge inside me. I couldn't believe this was happening. She had the audacity to come back to me, with his child, as if nothing had happened. It's David, she said softly, her voice trembling. I never meant for this to happen. It was a mistake, Jack. I was confused. He said he loved me. He promised me a future. I shook my head, the anger building with each word. And now you want me to accept this? You've been lying to me, cheating on me, and now you expect me to just accept this child as if it's nothing? I had nowhere else to go, she said, her voice cracking. David, after I had the baby, he told me he couldn't be with me. He said I was a burden, that he couldn't take care of me or the child. He kicked me out. I had nowhere to go, Jack. I didn't know how to react. My mind was spinning. Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face, to tell her to leave and never come back. But another part of me, the part that still loved her, was conflicted. She was broken. She had been used, discarded like trash by the man she thought would save her. I hated David for what he had done to her. I hated him for making her feel like nothing. And yet, she had betrayed me first. But somehow, I found myself saying the words I never thought I would. Come in, Emily, I said, my voice hoarse. Come in. We'll figure this out. I'll help you raise the child. It wasn't about love anymore. It was about doing the right thing, about fixing what had been broken, even though I knew this wasn't the life I had imagined. I couldn't throw her out. Not with her child. Not like this. Over the next few months, I did everything I could to support her. We set up a nursery. I helped with the baby, fed him, changed him, did everything I could to make sure he had the life he deserved, even though he wasn't mine. But as time went on, Emily and I grew distant. She was still emotionally tied to David, and I could feel it. Every time she spoke about him, her face would soften, and I knew she still loved him. Even though he had left her. Even though he had rejected his own child, she still longed for him. And then came the night I'll never forget. Emily came to me, her eyes filled with regret. I'm sorry, Jack, she said, her voice shaking. I still love David. I've tried to move on, but I can't. I need to be with him. I'm leaving. The words hit me like a freight train. I had given everything to her. I had accepted her, her child, the mess she had made of our marriage. And now she was walking away from me. Walking away from everything we had built. I can't believe you're doing this, I said, my voice steady, even though my chest felt like it was collapsing. After everything. After I took you in, helped you, raised this child like my own. You're going back to him? The man who rejected you? The man who kicked you out like garbage? I'm sorry, she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. I have to do this. For me. For us. And with that, she left. She took the baby, her things, and walked out of my life once again. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I was left there, in the silence of my apartment, the emptiness surrounding me. I had done everything right. I had taken her back, I had raised her child, and now she was leaving me again, returning to the man who had broken her. I wasn't going to let it happen again. Days later, I sat in front of my computer, staring at the screen, the rage bubbling inside me once more. I wasn't going to let Emily go back to David. I wasn't going to let her fall into his trap again. I had helped her once. I would help her again, by tearing down the world they had built. The pain of betrayal is a powerful thing. It warps your mind, twists your sense of reality, and makes you see red when you least expect it. For weeks, I had tried to convince myself that helping Emily would bring some form of healing. I was being the bigger person, I told myself. I was doing the right thing by helping her raise this child that wasn't even mine. But deep down, I knew the truth. It was never about doing the right thing. It was about keeping her close. It was about making sure that, even after everything, I wasn't the one left broken and alone. I was fooling myself, but I couldn't stop. That night, after she left me, again, I sat alone in my apartment, the empty crib in the corner taunting me. The walls seemed to close in on me. Emily had promised me she was done with David. She said she wanted to move forward, that she loved me and that our family, even if it wasn't perfect, could be rebuilt. But in the end, those were just words. Empty promises. She had never truly been mine. She had always belonged to him. And now she was gone. But I wasn't going to let her walk away again. Not without facing the truth. Not without the consequences of her actions. I spent the next few days plotting my next move. I wasn't about to let David get away with treating Emily the way he did. I wasn't going to let him ruin her life, again, without paying for it. He had used her. Abused her. And now, I was going to use that against him. I would make sure that he never had the chance to tear her apart again. I started small, like any good plan should. I reached out to a few people, old acquaintances, friends I knew from business and personal connections, people who had been around David. People who knew him. I didn't need to get into the specifics right away. I didn't need to send out pictures of their affair or mention the baby. No, I started with something subtle. A few whispers here. A few doubts planted there. Slowly but surely, I would make sure that David's world would begin to unravel. And it was so easy. 2 weeks later, I found myself standing in the dimly lit lobby of a fancy restaurant, waiting for David to arrive. I had orchestrated the perfect meeting, one where he would be confronted with the very thing that had brought him to his knees before, Emily. I could see him through the glass doors, his arrogant, self-assured walk unmistakable. He had no idea what was coming. He thought everything was fine. He thought he could go back to his life with Emily and the baby, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just thrown her away like garbage. When the door opened, I smiled at the surprise in his eyes. I saw the flash of recognition, the brief second of hesitation before his mask slipped back into place. "Jack," he said, his voice dripping with forced politeness. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I figured you wouldn't," I replied, my smile wide and knowing. "But I think we need to talk." David raised an eyebrow, but sat down without protest. He had always been a man of control, and I could see that he was trying to maintain that composure, trying to pretend that I wasn't about to tear down everything he thought he had. But he couldn't hide it. His confidence was fading. "So what's this about?" he asked, a slight edge to his voice. I leaned forward, my hands resting on the table, and I let the words slip out with an almost casual cruelty. "I think you need to know something about Emily," I said softly. "About the kind of person you really are, and the kind of life you've built for yourself." David's eyes hardened, and I could see the walls going up. But I wasn't going to stop. Not this time. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, his tone dismissive. I smiled. "I think you do. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Emily is your plaything, isn't she? You get her when you want her, and then toss her aside when you're done. Well, this time, she's not going back to you. She's not going to let you destroy her again." David's gaze faltered for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. "You've got it all wrong, Jack," he said, his voice low. "You don't know her like I do. She's not like you think. She's complicated. Don't feed me that bullshit." I cut him off, my voice rising. "She's your mess. Your responsibility. You broke her, and now you're going to face the consequences." I could see the panic starting to creep into his face now. He shifted in his chair, clearly trying to keep his cool, but I had already won. He knew it. He just didn't want to admit it. "I don't know what game you're playing, Jack," he said, his voice shaking with barely contained rage. "But I'm not going to sit here and let you make accusations about me. You're just mad because she left you. She didn't want you, man. She's with me now, and that's all that matters." I leaned in even closer, my eyes narrowing. "Is it all that matters, David?" I asked softly. "Because I can promise you, your perfect little world is about to fall apart. You and Emily think you can just waltz back into each other's lives like nothing happened? Well, I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm going to destroy everything you've built. You won't get away with this. Not again." David's face turned crimson, and for a moment, I thought he might lash out. But he didn't. He knew better. He knew that I had already won. I had already taken everything he thought he had. "I'll make sure you regret this," David said through gritted teeth, his voice low. I stood up, leaving him with nothing but the crumbs of his failed confidence. "No, David. The only one who's going to regret anything is you." I walked away from him, the echo of my footsteps ringing in the silent room. I didn't care about the threats he made. I didn't care about his rage. I had already taken the power back. And now, it was time for Sarah to see the consequences of her decisions. I didn't want to think about Emily anymore. I didn't want to think about the lies she had fed me, the manipulation, the pain. I had already made my move. I had already destroyed her life, and now, it was time to finish the job. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about something far more satisfying, revenge. But the path to revenge is never as clean as you think it will be. The chaos you cause doesn't just affect the ones you target. It always comes back for you, too. After confronting David, I knew I couldn't just walk away. I had to ensure that everything I had set in motion reached its final conclusion. I had already torn apart their careers, their relationships with others, and now I was going to make sure that their worlds collided in the most painful way possible. But revenge isn't a straight line. It's messy, unpredictable, and dangerous. The next phase of my plan? To make sure Emily and David didn't have a single safe place left. To expose their darkest secrets to the people who had once supported them, each other's friends, their families, their coworkers, until they had nothing left. I reached out to Sarah's colleagues, carefully choosing who to talk to. I knew her workplace better than she thought. I knew the people who were still loyal to her, the ones who would fight for her, but I also knew who had doubts, who had always suspected something was off. I started with small whispers. A few carefully placed comments about her behavior. About her affair with David. The details didn't matter. It was the perception I wanted to change. "Did you hear about Emily and David?" I'd ask casually, like it was no big deal. Seems like there's more to the story than they're letting on. The rumors spread like wildfire. Her colleagues began questioning her. There were no accusations yet, but the seed of doubt had been planted. It didn't take long for her social and professional life to begin cracking. And Emily, she had no idea where it was coming from. Then came the call I had been waiting for. I had made sure David's personal life had been ripped to shreds. His friends, the few who stuck around, began to hear whispers of his affair with Emily. Slowly, his perfect image, the one he had worked so hard to build, started to unravel. But the final act? It had to be personal. I wasn't going to let them escape the consequences of their choices without them feeling every bit of the pain I had endured. I arranged a meeting. A private one. David thought it was just a confrontation. A final attempt to save his crumbling life. But it was more than that. It was the moment when I would make them both realize that there would be no escape. I arrived at the restaurant early, sitting at a corner table with my drink in hand, watching the entrance for David. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared. In fact, I had never felt more in control in my life. When he arrived, he looked like a man who had been beaten down. His clothes were a little too wrinkled, his face drawn. He'd stopped pretending. His arrogance was gone, replaced by something more vulnerable. "James," he greeted me, his voice dripping with false calm. "What's this about? You know this isn't going to change anything." I looked him dead in the eye, letting the silence drag on before I answered. "You're right. It won't change anything," I said, my voice steady. "But it will make you feel exactly what I felt. It will make you understand what happens when you cross a line you shouldn't have. When you destroy someone's life for your own selfish gain." David's eyes darted around the restaurant nervously, but I wasn't done yet. "I've already made sure Emily's life is falling apart. You're next." He stiffened, clearly recognizing the weight of my words. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Jack?" His voice started to rise, panic setting in. "I don't need you to ruin me anymore. I've lost everything already." "No," I corrected, my voice dripping with cold venom. "You've lost everything, but you haven't felt the full weight of it yet. I'm going to make sure you never forget what you did to me." I dropped a folder on the table, sliding it toward him. "This is just the beginning. I've already made sure your professional life is gone. I've made sure people know who you really are. But that's not enough. I'm going to make sure you and Emily both suffer the way I did. I'm going to expose you both, destroy your lives even more than you could imagine." David's face went pale as he looked through the papers I had given him. His hands started to shake. "You're out of your mind," he whispered. "You can't do this." I didn't even flinch. "You did this. You're the one who made me feel like nothing. You're the one who threw me away. You're the one who destroyed us. You're the one who ruined everything." David opened his mouth to say something, but I wasn't done yet. "Now I'm going to make you pay. I'm going to make sure you regret everything you did. You and Emily both. She'll see. She'll know what happens when you betray me. And you'll never get away from it." The next few days were a blur. The whispers grew louder. Both David and Emily felt the weight of my words as their lives began to implode. But I wasn't done yet. The final move, the one that would break them both completely, was still to come. Emily tried to reach out. She called me, sent messages, even showed up at my door. But I didn't answer. I couldn't. She had made her choice. And I had made mine. I wasn't about to let her walk away again, not after everything. And then I got the final message. The one I had been waiting for. It was from Emily. "Jack, I've made a mistake. I shouldn't have gone back to him. I know I can never undo what I did, but I want to make things right. Please, please let me fix it. I'm begging you. I need you." I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity. But deep down, I knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to let her back in. I wasn't going to forgive her. She had already chosen him. And now, it was my turn to make sure she never had the chance to walk away from the consequences of her actions. The message sat there on my phone, its words heavy with regret, but also full of the same desperation that Emily had shown me countless times before. Her plea was familiar, the same words I had heard her say when she needed something from me, when she thought she could manipulate me into forgiving her, into taking her back. But not this time. Not after everything. I had already given her a chance. I had already opened the door to my heart, to our shared memories, to everything we once had. But she had made her choice. And that choice was David. She thought she could come back to me when things fell apart. She thought she could walk back into my life after she had destroyed me, after she had shattered the trust one had built with her. She was wrong. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. Emily continued to reach out, her messages becoming more frantic, more urgent. She wanted me to forgive her. She wanted me to take her back. She needed me to help her pick up the pieces of the life she had thrown away. But I had already made my decision. I wasn't the same man who had opened his heart to her years ago. I wasn't the same man who had loved her with everything I had, only to watch her destroy that love for a moment of fleeting passion with David. The man I had been was gone. The man who had trusted her was gone. I had taken control of my life. And now, I was going to make sure they both paid for what they had done. I started with David. I knew that if I really wanted to make them both feel the weight of their betrayal, I had to hit him where it hurt the most, his pride. I began making anonymous calls to his business contacts, his colleagues, subtly planting seeds of doubt. "Did you hear about David and Emily?" I'd ask. "There's more to their story than they're letting on." The whispers started to spread. Just a few comments, a few rumors, and soon enough, David's professional world began to crack. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about the way he had treated Emily, the way he had discarded her like she was nothing. The way he had used her, promised her everything, and then left her when things got tough. David was no longer the golden boy he once was. The man who thought he was untouchable was starting to feel the heat of the fire I had set under him. But I wasn't done. I had to hit Emily where it hurt the most. She thought she could come back to me, she thought I would help her fix her life, but I wasn't going to let her get away with that. No. If she wanted to come crawling back, then I was going to make her feel the consequences of her decisions. I started by showing her the truth about David. The truth about their relationship, about what he had really done to her. I sent her photos of their affair, photos she thought were private. I showed her messages he had sent to other women, ones she didn't know about. The truth was ugly, but it was the truth she needed to see. And when she saw it, when she realized that David had never truly loved her, that he had used her just as much as she had used me, I knew she would be crushed. She would have to face the reality of her choices. She would have to live with the consequences of abandoning me for him. It wasn't long before I received a call from Sarah's lawyer. She had decided to take legal action, filing charges against me for emotional distress, defamation, and harassment. She claimed that I had gone too far, that I had destroyed her life and David's, and she was demanding that I stop. But I wasn't done yet. I wasn't going to let them, get away with what they had done. I sat at my desk, staring at the legal papers that Sarah's lawyer had sent me. The tension in my chest was palpable, but I wasn't afraid. I wasn't backing down. I had already ruined their lives, and now I was going to make sure they stayed ruined. I wasn't just going to let them play the victim. I wasn't going to let them escape the consequences of their betrayal. The final confrontation came when I received another message from Emily. This time, she wasn't asking for forgiveness. This time, she was desperate. She had been rejected by David again. He had once again discarded her, left her to deal with the mess he had created. "I've made a mistake, Jack," she said, her voice trembling. "I thought he would take me back. I thought I could be with him, but he doesn't want me anymore. I have nothing left. I'm sorry. Please, Jack, help me. Please take me back." I read her message and felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just a cold, deep emptiness. I had already given her everything I could. I had tried to help her, tried to save her. But in the end, she had chosen David. She had chosen him over me. "I'm sorry," I typed back, my fingers steady as I typed the words. "But it's too late. You've already made your choice. And now you have to live with the consequences." The satisfaction of sending that message was bittersweet. I had finally taken control. I had finally made them pay. But in the silence that followed, I couldn't help but wonder if it was worth it. Was the destruction of their lives really the answer? Had it really healed the pain, or had it only deepened it? I left the apartment that night, the weight of everything pressing down on me. The revenge was complete. I had taken back control, but now, I was left with nothing. I had lost the woman I loved. I had lost my best friend. And in the end, I had destroyed the very thing I had fought so hard to protect. As I walked through the streets, I realized that I was no better than them. I had become the very thing I had despised. The vengeance, the anger, it had consumed me. I wasn't sure if I would ever find peace again. But I knew one thing, I had gotten what I wanted. And now, I had to live with it. Thank you for being with us on Whisper's Secrets. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, drop a comment, and be sure to subscribe. The secrets are waiting to be revealed. See you soon.